Hello.
Okay.
We're
Hello.
recording now.
Good morning, everybody. We're just going to start again for the people who are watching the recording. It is Inside Publishing with me and Simon Trewin, and we were just hearing about his going to Spain to do printing with a printing in a big printing studio and discovering that they didn't have nearly as much type as he has at home in his own printing studio, and how that's forced his creativity, which is actually really interesting because that thing of I interviewed Clara Guy. I've told a little, I had to get her name right at the weekend. And one of the things she said is she only has one idea at a time. And she wrote Catfish Rolling, which like was a sensation. I think it won loads of prizes,
Okay.
YA. And she's amazing. She's Japanese, Canadian, Irish, and she's just brilliant. But she was saying like literally she only has one idea at a time, and she has to sort of wait for that one to come and then build on that. And it's very interesting because you get some people like where you've got loads of ideas, and then sometimes where you've got none, and it's that thing, isn't it? Having to be resourceful with what you've got. I think that's really, it does stretch you creatively. I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think is it Tuesday you do the prompts or Thursday?
Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah, exactly. I was just going to link to that actually. Perfect.
Yeah, because in a way, what I had prepared for myself in advance, which was really interesting. I made 50 cards which had 50 really small tasks, and every morning I chose one at random, and it said things like, shut your eyes, choose three letters at random from what's in front of you, and spend 10 minutes creating a print. And
Wow.
I got this lovely, and I created these cards which I left a set with the studio for other people. Uh, and actually, that was a really those were my kind of Thursday prompts, but I had them every day, and
Mm.
it was really fun. And I started to look, because I had so few resources, or so I thought. I started to look at letters, not as letter forms, but as shapes that I could do other things with.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I started to, I ended up kind of printing things in Catalan because I
Ooh.
realized, and I was walking down to town, I saw some graffiti which inspired me, which said, El arte no ha. Oh, hang on, what's it? No, I'm gonna have to come back to what the last word is. But anyway, it's Catalan for art is not dead. And that was a really
Oh,
nice thing to print. And
isn't
also
it?
it was kind of respectful to where I was. But that was the kind of first week. And I thought, hang on, I'm kind of in my comfort zone now. So the second week I went around the corner and I looked at these enormous printing presses they had, which, one of which I could easily just got a sleeping bag on and gone to sleep
Wow.
on it. It was so
Yeah.
long. And I thought, I need to get out of my comfort zone and do things that I could not do in London. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I brought with me quite a lot of photopolymer plates, and I thought, okay, well, I've got these people. What can I think of a way of bringing all of these characters into one print? So I created a kind of. I decided it's going to be a theatre. It's going to be a variety bill, one night only, and I lined all these characters up, and then I did this print, which is kind of it's almost taller than me, and
Wow.
it was a really lovely thing to do. I've never printed at that scale, and actually, um, I just thought, okay, I've gone. First week, I thought, oh, I've got very little to play with here. The second week, I thought, hang on, I've got all these amazing facilities around the corner that I'm not even looking at. So I came back feeling exhausted, but I actually came back thinking, creativity sometimes it's not about being comfortable. It's not about staying in your lane. It's about kind of looking at the resources you've got and just kind of thinking, I'm going to go out on the high wire or the thin ice. And actually, what's the worst thing that can happen? I mean, the
Yeah.
world
So
isn't
true.
waiting for what I'm doing, are they? They're just,
No,
this is me.
but that's so
You
true.
know,
And being outside your comfort zone, because that's what Olivia
oh,
said when I was talking to her on Friday as well. She said, what did she say? She was this fantastic line which somebody put onto Instagram about the brave space, about when you're
like that.
going out, doing something a bit different, is that you're going into the brave space, and that's when you're growing as a writer or whatever. And that's so interesting. Chloe's just left a comment in here. For some reason, the comments on my Zoom are like this big. So I have to scroll. Isn't it a thing, though, that in history, the richest periods of creativity happen during times of hardship? So I think that's, yeah,
Absolutely.
really is interesting. But that prompt thing is really interesting. I mean, that's the whole idea of the Wednesday prompts, is that they have, you're mining that your subconscious mind, and you're working from a different place from where you normally would be, and you're literally just, it's accessing a different part of your brain, where you just respond to something, and that's what you were doing with those cards. We're just responding to whatever came in first, and that, I think we don't use that bit of our brain often enough with a creative response, and the more you
Yeah.
can use it, it's like it's on a different level to everything else. So
And
interesting.
I think if, like you at the moment, you write very firmly, there is a genre in mind, but obviously
Mm.
what you and other successful writers are doing in genres is trying to find a little area of that genre that you can kind of own, but it sits, it's an island within a kingdom. We know what the genre is, but actually, I know some genre writers who are bored with writing their own books because
Well,
you know,
that
they're
does
writing
happen
they're
when you've written.
writing another rom-com, or they do, and
Yeah.
actually maybe what one needs to do is sit down and think, this week I'm going to I'm going to write a literary short story, or I'm going to write,
Mm.
and actually it may be a disaster, but it will mean you set yourself some rules. I'm not allowed to write anything in the first person this week. Something that, kickstarts, doesn't it?
Pushes you outside your comfort zone. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think that is a problem when you don't, when you
Yeah,
write series books, there is always that issue of writing lots of the same thing, or feeling like you are, even if you're not, even if each book reads
yeah,
differently, it can feel it.
yeah. And I think
Literally, I was thinking
also,
about that this morning.
yeah,
Go on.
mm, no, no, and I think your notion that no writing is wasted, I think is just a brilliant thing, isn't it? Because you sometimes find something down the line that makes you think, oh, hang on, and as you know, I'm overburdened with ideas actually, but what I've realized now is, or the rule I've set now is that I'm just going to write them all down.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you'll come back to, I always think once they're written down, it's like they've been stored. And it's like the filing cabinet in your head. And once you write the thing down, then it's a way of, you might never look at it again, but the point is that it's there, it's on a page somewhere, and your brain will find it again when it needs it. So it's I think
Mm.
really valuable.
And
And every time I have a brilliant, when I do have a brilliant idea, if I don't write it down, it goes. And that's very annoying.
I think that's
Very,
something
very
about
annoying.
aging as well. And I, as you know, I had my birthday last, whenever it was, Friday,
Saturday.
Saturday, and so I'm officially feel really, really, really old now. But actually, the reality is, I've realised that my memory is not as good as it used to be. And in the old days, I could remember every deal I did, every day. But I genuinely now think, my goodness, God, I forgot to do that thing. So I think writing things down. There's some statistic that we both know, but I can't remember the number now. That if you go to a lecture or you're in a class and you write stuff down, even if
Oh
you
yeah,
look at the notes again, you're more likely to remember them just because of the process of
yeah.
writing.
The writing, yeah, absolutely. I was busy quoting that at Sam the other day.
And if we come back to, I know we've got a lot of talk about today. It's not just me going on about creativity, but I mean, in a way, creativity underpins everything we all do, and everyone in this group has got in common. But um, I think we're going to talk about AI maybe a bit later on, and there are some really positive uses of AI. I am finding, not to generate content, but to store these ideas that I'm coming up with. But we can
Yeah,
come on to that in a bit. But
yeah, because we were
yeah,
going to, I was going to,
yeah.
just
I was going to
looking
say,
at
I
your
mean,
list.
like while I was away, um, there were lots of people putting on fancy clothes and going to awards ceremonies, weren't
There
they?
were, yes, yeah,
And
yeah. The
I think,
nibbies.
yeah, and Dublin. You went to the Dublin City Awards,
Yeah,
which
Dublin Literary Award. Yeah, the other day. That was lovely. Trees are
is
just coming in now.
worth 100,000
hundred
euro.
thousand
Is it?
pounds, yeah, 100,000 euros. Sorry, I'm always in the wrong
Yeah.
currency. Whichever country I'm in the wrong currency. Yeah, no, the Dublin Literary Award is 100,000 euro, and it was won by Michael Crummy, who is a Newfoundland author, and I've literally finished his book this morning.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, amazing book actually, and all the cover quotes are like astounding, and actually it is, it's a really. It's like not the type of book I would normally read at all. So it's historical. It's set in Newfoundland in about 16 something, I don't know what, like a long time ago, maybe 17. I never looked at the date actually. And it's all about this sort of fishing community and the two big, basically the two big moneyed people, the widow Keynes, who is the sister of this guy called Abe Strap, who is really awful, and how they're sort of in competition and the things that go on. And it was really interesting because it doesn't really have a single narrator. It doesn't have a protagonist that takes you through the story. The each chapter is nearly like a story in itself, an essay in
Wow.
itself, and the point of view changes from omnipotent narrator to other people. Like so, it's not always the same. It's not even always the same character. It's really
Wow.
structurally, it's like it nearly breaks every single rule. Do you know what I mean? When you say, oh, okay, well, we need a protagonist and we need X number of protagonists, there's loads of people in it. So it's quite a little bit tricky to keep track of everybody. Um, but incredible, absolutely incredible. And it's all a lot of it's written in the dialect, sort of the dialect of the time. I think Chloe's probably read it. Absolutely amazing. And it was nominated by Nova Scotia Libraries, which I was very excited about. So when it came up on the thing, they had a lady from Nova
Oh
Scotia Libraries, which is where Chloe works, saying that why they nominated it. And yeah, it's an amazing, it really is an amazing book. It is astounding. That's the best way to describe it. So
I,
really enjoyed that.
I've forgotten. Chloe, I'd forgotten you worked in the Nova Scotia Library.
Oh, yeah, she does.
I've got a
Yeah,
good friend
absolutely.
who's in Nova Scotia and is a letterpress printer. I imagine Nova Scotia is quite a big place, but
Yeah, no, I don't think there's lots of Irish there. And he was just really funny because when he was talking about he was talking about there were little stories that he was telling in his acceptance speech, and he said that he was invited to Japan to talk about the Irish literary influence on writing in Newfoundland. And sorry, it's the book set in Newfoundland. Did I say Nova Scotia? Anyway,
good.
Newfoundland. And he was like, I don't in Japan, he was supposed to do this talk, and he was like, I don't know anything about that, but I'm going to Japan. So it was just very funny. So he said, I think he said he made it up, but he said they wouldn't have known the difference anyway. So it was like it was very funny. And then he was talking about somebody a poet. He didn't know who the poet was, but the poet was talked about being really mortified when people were gushing about his work, and so that they were praising his work and saying how fantastic it was, and he just couldn't deal with that, which is a very Irish thing, it has to be said. And Michael Crummy was saying the same thing, and the poet's wife at the time had said, just listen to them, take it all on board, but don't inhale. And I thought that was really interesting because then he said afterwards, so here I am, same thing happening. He said, I'm just trying not to inhale because it was just really it's good, it's great. He's adorable, and I think it was an interesting choice. It's an interesting book, and it
Yeah, it's
just
interesting that 1,000 euro, 100,000 euro.
100,000 euro
I had
changed
an
lives.
I had an author who won it 25 years ago, and it was 100,000 then.
I
And
saw
actually,
that because there's an amazing book. I'm looking for it now. It must be on my desk over there, which is that because this is the 30 years.
oh yeah,
And so it had everybody in it and had Andrew in it as well. And all the different winners, which is really great because I've been to about I so the last probably the last 10, and
okay.
that I remember the Idaho book being really really impressed with that and wanting to read that. I still haven't read that, but it's really impressive. And Daniel Hahn, when he won it, he's a translator, so the money gets split between the translator and the author. He
Oh, okay. That
Yeah,
didn't used to
he's
be the
part
case.
of the Translators Association, the Society of Authors, and he set up his own prize that the Society of Authors administer for translators, the first book, as a result of winning that with the money, which I thought
Oh
was
wow.
lovely. It was really good because it's a huge amount of money.
Yeah,
Um,
no, it's utterly life changing, isn't it?
yeah, the Idaho girl came on, she did a video and she said, yeah, I bought a house. It was life changing. I bought a house. So she's from somewhere in America. I can't remember where she's from. But yeah, no, it was really, really good. What was I going to say about that? Oh, what was very interesting, I thought, was when you look at the shortlist, on the
Yeah.
shortlist, there's a Booker Prize winner. But in this instance, with this set of judges, they went for Michael's book instead. And I thought that was really interesting. So on the Booker list, it just shows you, when people are entering competitions, because our guys are always entering competitions all the time, and they're like, they don't understand where they don't get through or whatever, that you can put books together and it's just whatever, it's the mix of people who are judging it sort of on the day and the books that are comparable that give you a winner. And it's not always consistent because you sort of think automatically, well, Paul's won the Booker, so he should have won that. But
Well,
it's
yeah, I
interesting,
mean,
isn't it?
yeah, I mean, I agree. I know, we judged together, and actually,
Mm.
I think it's different with the Creasy because that's a debut. But I'm sure there are prizes where the group of judges get together and go, "Oh, we're putting together a shortlist. Oh well, that book's already won a prize. We kind of got to put that on the list." And then when it gets to it, if somebody might say, "Oh, hang on, that author has already won that big prize, but just think what we could do for this other book that would."
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah.
there's a bit of that going on, and yeah, I mean, look, yeah, you're right. It's just a group of random people, isn't it? Basically, in a room on a given day, and they're influenced by
Yeah, whatever
what
their
they had for
own
breakfast,
background.
or what they saw on the telly
Yeah.
last night, whatever. So, I mean, prizes are, I've always sort of said, when I've been with an author and they've won a prize, it seems really easy. They go and the winner goes, the winner is, and the name's called, and they walk up on the stage and they get the prize. And actually,
Except when you were with me the last
yeah, but when you don't win, it seems like an impossible dream, doesn't it? You think, how am I going to write myself back into the possibility of winning? And
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
it makes a big difference, I think. I mean, there are some prizes which I don't think make any difference at all. I don't imagine winning the. I don't imagine he's going to sell many more copies as a result
I
of
think
that. But
I think you might do because it's a library prize. So like every library in
okay,
the world's going to buy it. Do you know what I mean? So
okay, well that's good. Yeah,
where he wasn't already, he will definitely. I think it'll definitely have an impact on. So not the same way would the Booker does, because the Booker has its own following, doesn't it? But I think because it's a library award, I think it'll have an impact.
yeah. I mean, I think the Booker is what people buy the Booker Prize winning book every year, don't they? You
Totally, and they buy
you
and
know,
they don't they order the whole shortlist, and that's like their thing.
yeah,
That's the books they read. So,
yeah,
um, that's really interesting. Yeah, no,
yeah.
and obviously it has an impact, a massive impact on sales. But yeah, not all prizes do. I mean, well, mine might have done if my book had been available in the shops to buy, or even online. But we won't go there. But
No, we
it's
won't.
my bugbear for this
But
morning.
I enter lots of open call on the artistic side, to try and get my uh, pieces into
Mm.
shows and whatever. And actually, I don't know. I mean, it's
You're
you
very
pay.
successful. You've had me lots of shows.
Yeah, no, I haven't, but I've had a kind of this is interesting. There's one particular one, the Woolwich one, that I've been in a couple of times, and actually last year I didn't get in, and I realized what I was doing. I was trying to come up with a piece that I thought would be the kind of thing
They've put up.
that
That's
they'd
really
want me to
interesting.
do, and actually, so I was almost trying to be a kind of what was I was trying to analyze? What was it
Yeah,
about those
you were
pieces?
trying to follow trend. That's what we're always
I was
telling
trying to
people
kind
not
of
to do.
yeah, no, I was trying to copy myself and go, oh, what kind of things should Simon Trewin do if he wants to get in? And you think, well, that's just daft, isn't it? Just do something that you want to do. And
Yeah, that's why you
actually,
have to follow your heart. You have to, and we were talking about the weekend
yeah,
actually with the agents, about the whole thing about trends and how the trends, and you'll always be behind the trend because you can't, because it was interesting. Had this amazing agent called Molly Kerhorn who does the
oh,
science
yeah,
fiction and fantasy. Taylor, I was thinking of you, and she's American. She's really, really on the ball, and that was with the adult thing last week. And she was talking about following trends and how she feels romantasy has reached its peak, or the scouts are certainly telling her it's reached its peak. And so that means that then there'll be less, in theory, they'll start to buy less of it. But we won't see that in the bookshops probably for another year and a half, will we? Because the glut of what's been bought needs to go through the system and come out into the bookshops before we start seeing a dropping off.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a kind of interesting segue because actually, you look at
We get into info sports. Yeah, I
Oh,
do.
Teresa, can we just mute you,
can, yeah.
Teresa?
Are you good?
We go.
who was that then?
Don't worry.
Okay,
I don't know.
yeah, I was looking at the British Book Awards, which obviously they're an industry awards, and I don't think they really make any difference in terms of uh, the people in bookshops. But actually, Bloomsbury won, I think, Publisher of the Year, and actually, let me have a look at what it says here. First time they've won since Harry Potter, and this was the Bloomsbury Adult Division, and first win in more than 20 years now. That division has been shortlisted 6 times in 7 years, but last year it had a rise in its sales by 8%. And in that year, their undisputed champion, who was responsible for £13 million of sales, was Sarah J. Maas.
Yeah.
Who became this year's top-selling adult author. And you think, okay, it's amazing that, one author can basically make an enormous change to a publisher's fortunes. But I think, to your point about romanticy, I mean, clearly publishers bought lots and lots of books, and I don't mean this in a bad way, in a kind of Darwinian way. They kind of put a lot out there, and it was kind of survival of the fittest, wasn't it? And can you hear me? I just heard a beep.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And clearly, what's happened is some of them have worked, and what the publishers are now doing is they're now on kind of book 5 or 6 of that author, so they're not looking to buy lots of more debuts because they've already got their runners and riders for the team now, haven't they? And
yeah, exactly.
how
And
it works.
That's the thing about I think about building a readership too, isn't it? That they know they're going to sell X number of books when they go out with that author, because that author's built that readership. And yes, they'll pick up new readers with each new book, hopefully, and then they'll buy the backlist. But it sort of becomes it nearly becomes like its own machine, doesn't it? So there's no need, you don't need to break them. You're not looking for that big investment and trying to break them all the time.
No. So I think when people say, "Oh, romanticy's peaked," I think what they clearly it's going to be a very important genre forevermore, but it's just not going to have the publicity or the new authors that it used to have. So but it doesn't mean that there won't be debut deals done. I'm sure there will be, but
it was just interesting because do you remember you said that you'd heard this thing about everybody romancy was just so huge, but that's the whole thing about trends. That's when we were talking about following trends, because because she was saying it'll be over soon and then people will be looking for the next big thing and the new trend, and but we don't know what that's going to be, because that tends to be like a zeitgeisty thing when all of a sudden you see that a thing coming through where you see lots of the same thing all of a sudden, and it's not, and it's really weird. It's like a zeitgeisty thing. So let's see. It might be. I think there's a lot of horror folklore coming through. People are really liking horror folklore. Who was writing horror folklore? I was talking to the other day. But
this is where I began to sound like the judge who in 1963 said, "Who are the Beatles?" during a court case. But
exactly, it's like I don't even know. I think it's horror based on folklore stories. I don't know what you do with it then, but folklore definitely. I've heard a couple of people say that that's a big thing that they're looking for. I was talking to somebody who's writing folklore. Anyway, and I presume that's like folklore as opposed to legends. I don't know what the difference is. I need to talk to Ruth Long. She's an expert on these things. She writes science fiction, fantasy, and does lots of legendy type stuff. But those sort of folk stories, I suppose, as opposed to the Greek legend.
But I mean, that's interesting because, over the years we've had commercial women's fiction based on, Jane Austen. We've had young adult novels based on fairy stories. We've had adult novels based on series. We've had adult novels inspired by Shakespeare. It's all basically just it's digging into the kind of our subconscious and those stories that we already know and finding different ways of telling them, isn't it?
That's interesting, actually, because there's a comfort factor in stories you already know, isn't there?
Yeah,
And I was just
is.
thinking about what happens when people get very anxious, which is something we saw happen in COVID, and obviously it's happening now because the world is on fire. That has an impact on writers, and it has an impact on what ends up getting published, and that comfort factor of folklore could be it. And also, people apparently read horror when they want to be anxious. People read horror. I don't know why. It's something to do with. I just found that somebody told me, and they said, "Oh yeah, I'm really like a bit neurotic, and I find it really relaxing." And that's not me, clearly. But I think that's why people read crime, because feel very comfortable within. They know that the resolution, they're in safe hands with the author. So although the awful things are happening, they know
Yeah.
that there's going to be resolution, that everything's going to be okay in the end. That's anxiety, but it's controlled anxiety, and so you're in a world where you know what to expect, as opposed to sort of the real world, particularly. So I know crime peaked during the pandemic. It's just interesting. It's interesting how what's going on in the world has impacts on, I suppose, trends and stuff like that. We can't, what's the word, predict, but we can keep going. That's why people have to write the book that they're writing, because they might actually be creating their own trend. Who knows? It's very important to keep going with whatever that might be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whole notion of looking at trends, I mean, clearly, we can look at what's sold and what's been awarded in the British Book Awards, but trends are kind of useful, but they're, as you say, you've got to write the book inside. If everybody sat down now and wrote something that was, a bit like the books that have been successful last year, it's just not going to work, is it?
Yeah, no, I think it is important that thing we were talking, actually, Abby had a question about tropes, which we're going to cover in the live
Okay.
tonight, but we can talk about them now for a bit now. But what is interesting is understanding your genre, and I think that's really important, so that although the books are going on the shelf now, you're not following a trend as such, but being aware of what's within I suppose, the canon of your particular genre, that's the right word, is really important to understand what else is happening and what readers are seeing and what readers are enjoying. And so, yeah, we were talking about tropes, particularly in kids' books, because you tend to see a lot of them in kids' books. And I think Portals is the best example. I can't think of any other ones mainly. Well, I suppose it's animal characters are a trope too, aren't they? So animal characters, portals, I always think is a big one, because nearly every single kids book you read has some sort of portal in it, if it's like a time slip or there's something going on, and being really original with that, what that might be or how you get through it, is really, really important. And so, yeah, portals are not portals. Tropes are like themes, or they're recurring images, or what's a better way of describing them? That's really what they are, isn't it? So the alcoholic detective in crime fiction would have been a trope. There's far too many of them, and there aren't any anymore, thankfully. But there are certain tropes where so you can take a trope and you can turn it on its head. You can say, right, well, I know this is a trope. This is something that reoccurs frequently, and I'm going to do something clever with it. Or you can, but you need to be aware of them, and you get aware of them by reading around in your genre, I think. That's really, really important.
Yeah, you do.
That's the thing that came through, actually, particularly from the kids or agents, over the last weekend, Friday, was absolutely read, and just read tons, because you can't read too much, really. I suppose to know what kids are reading now, and to know what's coming out now, and different voices, and yeah, just to get a feel for what's out there. To understand where your book fits. Loads of people were talking about, how you're always talking about going to a bookshop and seeing where it goes on the shelf. Basically,
Yeah.
they said a version of that, which I thought was really interesting, and to try and find out particularly when you're looking for comp titles, to try, because they're really, really useful to see where you imagine your book might be, and that means going and looking at the covers and just seeing what is like, well, basically what your book is like, I suppose, where you'd like it to be. I suppose I should do that. I should be going on the show and having a look to see what are the books that I would like to write. What do they look like? What do they do? and getting
Yeah.
getting a sense of that. Yeah, it was interesting. It was a very interesting weekend. But yeah, so British Book Awards are the Nibby, or generally called the Nibbies. I got a press release about them the other day, and I couldn't figure out. It didn't say Nibbies anywhere, and I couldn't figure out if it was a different set of awards or not. But they're really interesting. They're just interesting, yeah, to see who got what and what's going on, I suppose, in the world.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting looking at Waterstones getting Bookseller of the Year because they have increased sales on the high street by 17%, but
That's
you know
great.
they've also they put on over 1,000 extra book and author events in the last year. That's pretty astonishing.
That's interesting, isn't it? So
Yeah.
they're seeing a direct correlation between sales and events.
Yeah, I think they're
Interesting.
also seeing themselves at the heart of the community, aren't they? Because I'm sure that some events that they put on, you know, they might sell 4 books,
Well,
but
that's it. You
actually,
seem to not sell very many books at events, honestly, for the amount of effort and time that goes into them quite often. Um,
but you get people into the bookshop and they might buy something else while they're there, or
yeah,
they think, oh, Waterstones is a,
yeah.
it's a
And they're getting
benevolent.
familiar with the landscape, aren't they? So they're actually if they go in for an event into the store, that might be the first time they've gone into that store. And so then yeah, they familiarize themselves and then it becomes less of a what's the word, barrier to go in and buy a book if they're interested. They might go and have a route around. That's
Yeah,
very interesting.
and it's interesting. Agent of the Year, Amanda Harris, who, they actually her submission said, her books were responsible for £6 million worth of sales, and it just reminds you that books are a business, and agenting is a business, and everybody is, there are all kinds of publishers on the scale, from, people who are effectively sort of kitchen table publishers who are publishing out of a passion for a small genre, up to companies who have, tens of thousands of employees worldwide. And it's, it's important to remember we are all part of a business, and actually there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
I know art and commerce sometimes are unhappy
yeah,
bedfellows, but it is a business, and I think sometimes it's important to remember that for an agent and for a publisher to take on a new author and a new project, it is a significant investment. It's not, it's not just, oh well, we'll just throw another book out and it'll find an audience. I think those days they really aren't there anymore. It is
yeah. No,
about
I think that's a really
strategic
good point.
publishing.
I think, and that's the thing that's very hard for writers, because you're changing, as I was saying at the weekend, you're changing from being an artist to being a business person. And so the whole literally the change from finishing the book and feeling that it's finished and then getting it out there, not too soon, obviously, and, creating your spreadsheets and identifying who you're going to submit to and all of those, that process, which honestly
Yeah.
makes me just feel, is, so I understand how everybody else feels utterly overwhelmed by it, is a completely different skill set. Like it's spreadsheets and a whole load of stuff. So it really is different, but it is part of the process. But then also when we were talking, Clara was talking about how she had, what did she do? She wrote an essay or a short story. Was it an essay for the Stinging Fly? I think it was a short story or an essay for the Stinging
Okay.
Fly. And as a result of that, her agent was setting up a new list and had read it and asked to see the book that she was working on, asked her if there was a book, and there was. And I don't think she liked that book. I think she wanted to see if there was something else. But it
Okay.
was really interesting because clearly she'd seen her voice in that piece. And as she was saying it, I said, that's you creating your own opportunities. You've created an opportunity there by sending that work out in the first instance. You've opened that door. That, because they were talking about, how much luck is involved, because there is always a little bit of luck involved in this whole process.
Yeah.
And, you can track back luck, can't you? So, but I just thought it was really interesting because that's what it is. It's about getting out there, and you don't know which door that you're banging on is going to be the one that'll open, and so you have to keep banging on all the doors. Do you know what I mean? You need to keep pushing in all different directions because you don't know which bit will be the place, the way you're going to get your break. We had one guy, Kevin Moran, on Friday who had been to date with an agent twice. Previously, he spoke to Julia Churchill the first time, and he said that was really, really useful. But this book he has published now, his debut, is not the book that he was in date with an agent with twice, or even,
Oh, okay.
I mean, there were two different books previously. And he's written a book called The Doomsday Club. He's a sixth class teacher, and it's about sixth class boys. He really understands them, and they have to solve mystery and stuff like that. And it was just really interesting. It was really interesting hearing his feedback too. He said that when he went to he sat down with Julia and she couldn't find his submission, and I don't know if she didn't have it. There was clearly something wrong in the chain there. But she said, so just pitch me your book. And he said he started rambling because he hadn't quite nailed the pitch idea. And he was rambling a bit and rambling a bit more. And then he got to a point where she said, stop, that's where your book needs to begin. Just
Okay.
don't. And he said that was like revelatory because it was like, oh my God, yeah, she's dead right. And that I thought that was really interesting because we're always talking about that, finding your way into the story, aren't we?
We are. Yeah.
And you need to begin. So yeah, very, very useful. It's very good.
Okay. And yes, so the other thing I was just going to mention about the book awards. Oh yeah, so imprint of the year was Bookature. So
Oh, that's interesting.
they've been
Did-
shortlisted 4 times in 5 years.
Mm.
And I think, just to remind anyone who hasn't been aware of them before, they started out in ebooks and audiobooks, but it's been a new focus now to have a trade print list, which was up
Yeah.
their game.
Because they got bought by by Hachette, didn't they? So they started off as a sort of like a what's the word, like an indie, I suppose, digital only publisher,
Yeah,
and then they nailed digital only publishing because they were the ones that were getting enormous sales,
yeah,
and then Hachette bought them, and then they're putting the top lines they put into print now, don't they?
they do. And the most, I think that what's that author? Is it the nanny books, Frida McFadden?
Is she a Bookature?
Yeah,
Oh goodness,
and
yeah, God, they're everywhere.
she was the 10th best-selling author in 2024 in print.
Wow.
And seven Bookature authors in 2024 made more than, actually says generated more than £500,000 in revenue. So that wouldn't be for the author, would it? That's
No,
sale.
that's for the publishers. That they probably made 100,000, would they?
Yeah, but that's pretty good. And
Nice.
200 books reached the ebook top 100, and 56 authors racked up over 10 million pages read. So,
That's huge. Yeah, no, they really have got that sort of that digital penetration. So say that again. So how many authors? 500. So 500,000 in what
seven
period?
authors generated more than, this is in 2024, seven authors generated more than £500,000 in revenue.
Okay, so that means that they're making that, and well, it depends because they don't always write one book for Bookature, do they? They quite often Bookature push you to actually have maybe 2 or 3 titles out a year. So let's say it was a maximum of 3 titles. That's still 100 grand for 3 books. Not bad, is it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Very good.
Mm.
And 56 authors having over 10 million pages read.
Mm.
So, isn't that interesting that, imprint of the year is primarily a non-print imprint?
Yeah.
And you do wonder why we even think about things in these terms now. Why isn't it that every publisher surely every publisher should be as good as Bookature at doing the digital side of things, and as good as
Yeah, what they do, yeah, it's everybody else should be looking at them to try and figure out what it is they're doing, what tricks they're missing.
in the same way Bookature has clearly looked at what they were missing in print, and
Print.
they've added in that, and Freedom McFadden is everywhere. So
Mm.
and I think Boldwood, which is another you know print and e kind of hybrid, that's done incredibly well. But you know, there are a lot of authors out there. I still think print has a role, you
Mm.
know, and I'm aware of Frida McFadden because I see people reading those books everywhere, and I wouldn't be at all if we'd sold as many books, but in the only, would I?
Yeah, no, because she'd be on the Amazon chart then, but if unless you're buying digital, you wouldn't see her in the same way that you would, like she's in bookshops, so she's just sitting on a shelf or she's in the top 10 or whatever. She's got that visibility. Yeah, so you can sell a million books in and unless you're a Kindle user, you wouldn't have the same awareness. Um, you know, as a reader, you wouldn't have the same awareness as somebody who has sold a million books in E or whatever, because it's
No.
did you mean? Yeah, I didn't explain that very well. But that you're right. Yeah, it is that's that crossover. But then, do you know something? Sometimes if you're selling selling a million books is not a bad thing, even if they're only at 99p each. Do you know what I mean? You're still making nice money there. So the fact that they aren't in shops or whatever is you know, it's just a different market. I think and again, it's that thing about the definition of success. It's like, you know, what's success for an individual person, and you can get great success in digital. Um, so
Yeah,
it's
you can. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
So I'm surely it's what everybody wants is readers, isn't it?
that's it, isn't it? Yeah, you want readers, exactly. And
Um,
yeah.
and then there was a new award which was awarded to Margaret Atwood, which was called the Freedom to Publish Award, which honors an individual who's gone above and beyond in terms of promoting reading and free expression.
Mm.
And then there was the British Book Award for Social Impact, which went to Kate Moss, who's the founder
Oh yeah,
of the Booker
yeah,
Prize. So
yeah.
um,
Women's prize.
yeah, the Women's Prize. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, you know, which was the orange originally. But so,
yeah,
you know, I think some, you know, some good kind of, you know, interrogating the book world and actually thinking there are some things going on here which are, you know, like Atwood and um, Kate Moss and, you know, Sarah J.
yeah.
Maas and
They really
Booker
are looking
Shaw.
at the.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's very true.
these are all things which, you know, in the old days they would have been done in the fringes and nobody would have thought that they were worth talking about in this way. So, you know,
Yeah.
that's a good thing. And if we move across to the Romantic Novel of the Year Awards,
Oh
which,
yeah, that was really interesting, wasn't it? Yeah. So, and by the way, guys,
yeah,
if anybody's got any questions, do throw them into the comments or the chat or whatever. For Simon. Yeah, Romantic Novelists Association, because yeah, as you said, 3 self-published books won prizes.
yeah. I mean, there were novels that won from Headline, HarperCollins, Boldwood, and whatever, but there
Mm.
in the 11 categories, there were 3 wins for self-published authors. And you think, okay, well, actually, if we just go down here, there's an award for new writers, which went to an Audible original. So I'm guessing it's an ebook. I mean, it's an audible. It's an audio book. I don't know if you can read it, but you can
Yeah,
just
if it
listen
says it's
to
an
it.
original, it might mean that it's not in print. Because there are
Yeah.
some now, Audible are doing some
Mm.
audio only, aren't they?
Yeah. And then there are 3, you know, as I say, self-published books here. You know, it's one called Joy Wood, an author called Julia Borgio and Suzanne Lisserman. And you think, well, isn't that great? You know,
Mm.
and I don't know whether that means that, you know, Love Me Till Wednesday by Suzanne Lisserman will be now being snapped up by a traditional publisher.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? I would
And
imagine.
if,
Depends on her sales, I
and if they
suppose, doesn't
do,
it? Yeah.
yeah, because I don't think the RNA, you know, that's not, it's going to raise awareness among a pretty small area. It's not a public facing award, but it's interesting to know, you know, maybe somebody will be talking to her now going, okay, well, what's your next book? And would you like some money or, you know, whatever it might be?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I've just discovered all the questions are here. They're still big on my thingy. So I think Maxie was asking who won the Dublin Literary Award, and it's a book called The Adversary by Michael Crummy with an E. So Crerummey. And really, really good. Oh yeah, and then Close put it in because she's ahead of the pack here. And then Duncan's saying, would Uplit be good for an anxious person? Yes, it certainly would. Definitely. Sorry, I'm just going through here the questions, make sure I haven't missed anything. God, I don't know what's happened to my things. The thing in the chat has gone really big, so you can't see them properly. Time travel or dinosaurs? Is that the thing about tropes? I don't think dinosaurs are a trope, if that's the thing about tropes. Oh yeah, so
Sorry.
and then
Time
mirrors.
traveling dinosaurs. Just tell me more. Sorry.
Oh, did that say time travel? No, time travel. Time travel is a trope, but not. I don't think dinosaurs are necessarily. Can you read the chat? I don't know what's happened to mine here.
Let me see. Hold on.
And then Mira saying she feels the experience of reading in digital is very different from reading in print. She really likes holding a book. Yeah, I agree. But I like actually reading on my phone sometimes. I can read much faster when it's in digital. Oh, somebody was at the Hay Festival. Who's that? I haven't got a name with you, iPhone 3, whoever you are. At the Hay Festival yesterday and saw Libaro Publishing being advertised, and I hadn't heard of them before. They're like Fitzcaldo, aren't they? I think they
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
foreign editions, yeah. Audio, the Audible originals are licensed as audio only, yeah, for a period before they had to go to ebook. Yeah. Oops, sorry, I'm a long one. I follow some authors who use that, but they made it big in print as well. Yeah, usually I think to get the audio agreement for the audio thing, you need to be known to begin with. As soon as the books came out, even as hardcover, yeah, big debate. There was a big debate in one of the readers groups the other day about hardcovers. Ricochet's book club, somebody was saying about hardcovers.
Tell me about that.
Oh no, it was about somebody was saying it was a bookshop actually saying when you do a review and you mention hardcover, could you also mention if it's available in paperback? Because what was happening was people were saying it was hardcover, and then a lot of people don't read hardcover.
No.
And then there was a big debate about between the people who were all reviewing about whether they should say and whether it came out in hardback, and the fact that trade paperback is the thing here instead of a hardback, and that then some people were saying that they like to wait for the smaller paperback because obviously there's 2 iterations or something. Yeah, it was just interesting. It was, yeah, basically the bookshop was saying because the bookshop wouldn't stock that many hardbacks. Can't remember which bookshop it was here, because they would tend to be trade paperbacks, and some of the people who were reviewing in the Ricochet Book Club clearly are British reviewers who are getting a hardback copy of stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was interesting, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a dream world, every book would come out in every format, wouldn't it? And people would choose their own way. But I suppose hardback can generate more revenue, can't it?
Well, I think so. I just got this from Faith Hogan, writes women's fiction. She's HarperCollins, gorgeous hardback, lovely, great big chunky one. Who's it? Head of Zeus. So that's interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
She's one of their top sellers now. Yeah, my quest for a hardback goes on. I'll shut up one day. Anyway, but
so as an author, what is it about the hardback that is appealing?
It's a thing. It's oh, Mary's saying the trade paperbacks are so bulky. Yeah, that's why people like the small paperbacks. What is it about it? It's appealing. It's I think it's a confidence thing. So it's a sign that your publisher has confidence in you, the author, and the book, that they're going to be prepared to invest that little bit more and put it out as a hardback, because it's a different type of thing from the trade paperback. I mean, yeah, it's a different level, and I think then obviously the UK reviewers tend to prefer hardbacks. So if you want to go get reviews in the UK, then they really need to be, half of them don't do paperbacks. So yeah. So that's just, anyway, these are the things that it's hard enough to get published. Once you get published, then there become other problems where you are like, do you know what I mean? You go through, just get through the door first, and then you can worry about all the other nitty gritty bits, about, all sorts of little bits that bother you when you are through the door and on the other side.
First world problems, as they say, aren't they?
First world problems, absolutely, 1,000,000%. Yeah, no, so it's, yeah. It's funny, really, when you think about it. But anyway, so our time is nearly up. 3 minutes to go. I know we started a little late.
Must be another question, surely.
Yeah. Has anybody got any questions for Simon about what's going on in the world, or about what we talked about, prizes, formats, I think the prizes thing is really interesting, and the fact that different people can win different things. And I think that's something really for people to bear in mind when they're entering competitions, because people enter stuff and then they worry, or they send stuff off to agents and then they worry that it's not being picked up. But it really is so subjective, isn't it? And you get 6 people together who think in a particular way, or we've seen
Mm,
actually judging the short story. You know how when you put in a new judge, it changes the
yeah.
dynamics, doesn't it? And the conversation's different, and you know what you like, I know what I like. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but then you get somebody else in who's a bit different, and it can completely change the mix up.
Yeah.
So
And it's wouldn't it be boring if everybody thought the same books were
Would it
good?
would, and it's not good. It's not good practice, I think, to keep the same judges at the same time. I'm working on judging a bursary at the moment. So myself and Colin Barrett are doing it.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, and so we have got all the applications to the bursary. And I was just thinking about the criteria that I'm using. I haven't actually had a chance to talk to him yet. Our meeting's on Friday. So it'd be very interesting to talk to him and see what his sort of subliminal criteria, or whether we're on the same page at all. We could be wild. He's a literary writer, completely different to me, so we could be wildly different. And it's going to be very interesting to see what he comes up with, and see if we can hash out who's going to get the bursary and what. And you do have your own criteria and stuff when you're coming to it. So and I was just thinking about, if people apply, what would they apply with, and what, on what basis, who would the judges, the judges have a huge impact on who makes that decision, don't they?
Oh,
You know
100%. Yeah.
and so if they're
Yeah.
different judges next week or next year, then could be completely different. You could apply again, and it could be a completely different mix. I know what I'm reading people's applications, and I'm forming opinions about those for my own reasons. But nobody knows what those reasons are. So it's yeah, interesting, very interesting process.
Mm,
So
it
yeah,
is.
working on that at the
So
moment.
we're next back on screen on
On
Thursday, are
Thursday.
we?
Yeah, and it's to submission
Approximately.
clinic. Yeah,
Yes, Selection Clinic. Yeah.
you haven't got any submissions yet because Maria's working on it. So guys, if you want to jump in and have a chat to Simon about your work in progress, this is a really good time to do it. Do let Maria know. And I think she's doing that today, looking for people. I think she's a bit behind. And yeah,
Be very brave, can't you?
put your name in the hat, go for it. He doesn't bite. You don't bite, do you?
No, well, I don't. Only in a literary way. No, not at all. No, I think and it's but I think it's important to think why are you putting your name in the hat, and what do you want to get out of it?
Yeah.
Don't if you know what all the faults are with everything you're doing, then perhaps it could be quite a repetitious time, couldn't it? When I'm saying, what about this? Oh, yes, I know about that.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So if you've got niggles, fix the niggles first, and then yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, so it's whatever you want to learn. And we've done what did you do first? 3 chapters to begin with, and then we switched to synopsis and a bit of an opening, didn't we? And
uh,
yeah, so I think that's where we are now. So it's all about plotting. You're being thrown out your room.
no, I'm not in a room actually. It's just two fantastic students from creative writing courses. Sorry, MAs in publishing, who I've
Oh,
been
they've just arrived, have they?
mentoring for the last year, have just arrived, and we're going to have a kind of end of year catch up on. I think basically I've unwittingly asked them to review how they feel I've been over the last year. So let's see. But no, it'll be good, and I think it's exciting that young people are wanting to go into publishing.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
important, very
optimism.
important. Yeah, so that's great, lovely. I'm going to turn off the recording now. So guys, look out, anybody who's catching up with this, do look out for Thursday's session when we will be digging into somebody's submission. And I hope everybody has a very good day. So I'll just turn this off.
So do I.
There we go. Oh no, hang on, I've done it wrong. Dear me. Sorry, I've lost my bar at the bottom.
And then you'll get some AI kind of thing saying, this is what we talked about, when I don't know.